What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Leo's Nerd Talk, and today we're going to be going over Frankenstein. So let's get into that. Hi, my name is Leo, and if you guys like talking about movie, TV show, video game related, or just anything nerdy, you are in the right place. And like I said, today we're talking about Frankenstein by Guillermo del Toro. So without further ado, let's get into the review. Now, I was very excited for this Frankenstein remake, especially being directed by Guillermo del Toro, who is a fantastic filmmaker. I'm not 100% familiar with like the original movie or the Frankenstein book or anything like that. This is probably like the first full adaptation that I've actually watched all the way through. I tried to watch Frankenstein last year, but I never had time to completely finish it. So I knew a little bit about the original, and I still know more or less kind of what happens in that movie in the original film. But this is kind of my first full knowledge of the Frankenstein monster and Victor Frankenstein and things like that in the story. Obviously, the story is, in pop culture and all over it, and everyone pretty much knows what the Frankenstein monster is and the general story of what happens in that book. But overall, still not 100% familiar with it. So it was I was very excited to see this movie and kind of see how this story really plays out. But before I go into my pros and cons of this movie, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I know it's been quite a while since I've posted a video. It's been a crazy couple of weeks here, so I haven't had really a chance to sit down, watch movies, create videos, edit. But so for everybody that still supports my channel and is going to come and watch this video and like it and comment or whatever the case may be, I absolutely appreciate every single one of you guys that come watch my videos. Even if I come through back from a decent long hiatus, I'm try to ramp these things back up and try to make a bunch of videos here at the end of the year, do some Christmas videos, obviously like the end of year rankings and things like that I typically do. So, please continue supporting the channel. I absolutely appreciate every single one of you guys. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get straight into my pros. So starting on my pros, I think this story was absolutely amazing. Such a beautifully directed film, such a great just visually pleasing movie, great characters, just everything in this movie was absolutely pleasing, absolutely amazing. Again, Guillermo del Toro is a fantastic director, but I like the way they structured this movie a little bit, where we have this really cold open where you have the Frankenstein monster being as brutal as he possibly can be, where you're seeing him as the monster. He is the threat, he is the killer, he is brutal, vicious. The strength of the Frankenstein monster is absolutely incredible. They display all that on screen in such a great way without having to tell you what the Frankenstein monster is. They show you how brutal he can be in those first moments. So you start to think, how are we going to get to this point? Because this obviously feels like a part of something that bunch of things took place beforehand. It seems like we're seeing into the future before we get the full backstory, and that's kind of how this movie plays out. But just seeing him in that full vicious brutal form was absolutely amazing. He has some pretty good practical effects here as well, with some of the gore, just really crazy brutal kills. And again, just the sheer strength of the Frankenstein monster was displayed here, and it was absolutely amazing in this first cold open. And once we get that cold open, we start to kind of get more of the backstory. We start hearing Victor Frankenstein's story of how this kind of came to be. What were the things leading up to this event that we saw here in the intro? And I think it was done very beautifully. I think it was paced decently well. There's still some pacing issues here and there, which we'll talk about a little bit more in the cons, but overall, I think the Victor Frankenstein character was very interesting. I think they did a great job of kind of exploring his mindset, all the other characters around, people that didn't believe him, in terms of him actually being able to figure out how to bring someone back from the dead, him trying to educate the world, but no one believed him. He was just a charlatan. He was playing jokes, things like that. So seeing his kind of growth, or trying to prove everybody wrong and being so prideful, very, very interesting character to kind of follow and kind of see where his path leads him to. And then of course we have I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. I just finished watching the movie like 2 hours ago, but essentially it's his brother's fiance's uncle, and he is a very wealthy man and is funding his projects and his scientific studies and giving him everything he needs to be able to actually do what he is sought out to do, and is to reanimate a dead body. But he has his own kind of reasons and agenda of why he's giving him all this money, giving him all these resources. He has his own reasons in the back of his head. This is not just like a free giving just because he believes in him, which he does believe in him. That's why he's doing this, but it's not just for the sake of science or the sake of research. He has his own agenda. And then you have like Mia Goth in here, which I think is a very interesting character. I think she performs very well. But yeah, just across the board, performances are absolutely amazing. The actual Frankenstein monster performance also, where you have those childlike tendencies towards the beginning and you have a much mature version of it towards the end once you start to kind of gather what's going on in the world. So yeah, seeing that first half of the movie in the perspective of Victor Frankenstein, again, shot beautifully, great storytelling, great character work, not too much expedition dumps where you feel like you're being told everything so directly. You're shown a lot of the things that are going on. Again, just visually pleasing, great score here as well. You can definitely feel like the ambiance of the movie as well. Like it's very gritty and dark, but super stylized as well, where it seems super polished and clean and nice, and all the architecture is very beautiful to see. You know, the landscapes that they're in are very vast and amazing. So just really great storytelling in that aspect. And then we get the second half of the movie where you are seeing the perspective of Frankenstein. And I thought that was also very great as well, seeing his kind of character go from this very childlike, monstrous tendencies to being, more human-esque. And that's kind of one thing that you see throughout this movie is you're really asking yourself throughout the entire film is who truly is the monster? Who is the Frankenstein monster? Is it the actual reanimated person, or is it the doctor who did this and his mindset and how prideful he is and kind of seemingly only cares about himself and putting others in danger for his own benefit? Who really is the monster by the end of it? And it just leads you to a very, very masterfully done remake of a classic monster that I absolutely enjoyed. It was such a great viewing experience. Unfortunately, it was on Netflix, which again, we'll talk about in the cons. But overall, I think this was just a masterfully done movie. The Frankenstein monster was done in a very great, brutal way where even though he matures towards the end and you have those more humanist tendencies, when he goes full ballistic, it is absolutely brutal. And you even see like the emotion and the feelings and him trying to find love and stuff like that. And I've heard a lot of people say the original Frankenstein movie is like a tragic love story. And you can kind of see that seeping into this movie as well. So I think just the way they portrayed all the characters, the way they played out the story, I think was done absolutely amazing. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into my cons. And there is really not much here. There's a couple things. Really, one of the biggest cons overall is I think this movie would have benefited from a theater release. I know they released it in select theaters, but they were so far and few between. It was almost impossible to get a ticket, and they're really far away from where I am located, where I live. So that was one thing that was a little bit difficult to go see in the theaters. So I had to wait until it released on Netflix, and that taints the experience a little bit because this movie was so beautifully shot, so masterfully done, where a theater experience would have upped this 10 times in my opinion. It was such a great movie, but to watch it on a monitor, on at my desk, it kind of hurts the experience a little bit. So that's a little bit unfortunate. That's not taken away from the movie because the movie itself is great, but the experience and how you view it also does tend to kind of sway you one way or another. And although I already enjoyed the movie, immensely, seeing it in a theater would have helped a lot more as well. Secondly, this movie kind of falls in the issue that Netflix movies tend to fall in sometimes, where it's, again, a beautifully directed movie, great shot choices, visually pleasing, but there are times where it's a little overly polished. And Netflix movies have that kind of style to it where it's so overly polished, where certain sequences look abundantly fake. You can tell that it's like a green screen or it's CGI or whatever the case is. It's so overly polished in terms of how it looks that you can tell where things are not practical and they are fake. And that's unfortunate. And speaking of fake, there are a lot of sequences like with wolves or this like god devil that Victor Frankenstein was seen, very CGI heavy in those moments where it just looked a little off and a little too fake. So certain moments like that where you have really high end great visuals and some pretty subpar visuals as well that can kind of take you out of the moment in those certain sequences. So that's something that Netflix movies tend to kind of have, where it's too overly polished, where some moments just look way too fake and can kind of take you out of it a little bit. And then lastly, I think it would be probably the pacing of the movie. I said it does pace pretty well, but I think the kind of middle act does tend to slow it down a little bit, where you're going from the ending of Victor Frankenstein's perspective into the beginning of Frankenstein's monster's perspective. It does tend to slow down in that portion. And I think this movie would have benefited from about a 15 to 20-minute cut. And it would have paced a lot easier. And I think the story would have been able to been told just fine enough where it doesn't feel like there's anything missing by the end of it. But again, overall, absolutely fantastic movie. But that is gonna be it for this one, guys. Let me know what you guys thought about Frankenstein in the comment section down below. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, excuse me. I absolutely appreciate every single ounce of support that you guys show my channel. But again, if you guys like talking about movie, TV show, video game later, or just anything nerdy, you are in the right place. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you.